Hi, everybody. This is Gene. I've actually created a new YouTube channel to share my launch plan and the journey of trying to reach more people with the information products that I am creating. Okay, so the first thing is really to simplify and create a foundation. And this foundation is basically how you can actually solve, transform, or create a transformation or a reality be for basically everyone that might be in your target audience. Okay, so we're going to focus on building a following because in reality, you can have the best products in the world, but you eventually need to have content which you use to build a following, and that generates social proof and it helps you become kind of an expert in the area in which you want to help other people. And the other is you really want to craft a very simple message that easily connects with the people you want to engage and communicate with. So the foundation for creating not only your sales copy, but also the products that you want to create is to answer two fundamental questions. The first one is, what value would everyone in my audience immediately benefit from? I'm going to show you later why this is an important question to start off with. And of course, the second question is, what is the most effective way to transfer this value for immediate results? And sometimes if you're not helping people with weight loss or something else, it could be immediate epiphany, something that suddenly changes the way people think and ultimately the way people behave. All right, so the milestones for this kind of 1-year launch that I'm putting together, and of course everybody can take pieces of information and apply it to their own launch journey, is you need to extract what's valuable within you. You need to create something. You need to create information product. You need to create content that people want to consume. You have to publish it, you have to market it, and then ultimately you have to engage with the people that you are trying to help. Okay, so when you create something, what is it that you want to create? Because ultimately this is wrapped around launching an online business or becoming what Dean Graziosi would call a knowledge broker. So you have to create certain things. We're really going to focus on creating lead magnets, which are free products, and that's why they call it P1, free products you use in order to get somebody's contact information or email address, and pillar content, which is derived from more of Gary Vaynerchuk's pillar strategy, where you can create one piece of long form content and then you can repurpose that into many different types of content for the different social media platforms. And then, of course, engaging with your audience is probably the thing that most people don't really think enough about when they begin their journey for creating information products, is how important it is to actually engage with your audience that you're creating, because ultimately the engagement will lead you to the next creation, which is your low-cost product and ultimately the prime offering or the prime product that you hope to create. So in this video, I'm going to talk about extract, which is kind of the first phase of launching an online business. And I've kind of taken information that I've gotten from a lot of different people. So one would be Jeff Walker in Product Launch Formula. One would be Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins with the Knowledge Business Blueprint. There's a lot of people that I get inspiration from. And what I've done is I've taken that and created something that I think applies directly to the results and the transformation that I'm trying to achieve for myself in becoming a knowledge broker and launching information products and becoming kind of an influencer in my niche. So the extract is going to talk about 3 different things. One is called the P1 Value Finder. And of course, P1 is your lead magnet or your free product. That is something which everybody in your audience will find value when they either listen to it or watch it or read it. The other is your superpower finder. And the superpower finder is more about you. And we'll get into that. And then the story, lesson, and takeaway is the way that you want, is the framework for you to, once you extract your information and your content, you want to create stories, lessons, and takeaways in order to be able to deliver value to your audience. Okay, so the example here is obviously my information, but the P1 value finder, this is really where you have to be empathetic to people you think are in your audience. So once you describe your target audience, and this is the entire ecosystem of people that may be interested in what you have to say, not necessarily people who would buy something from you, but just people who might follow you and might watch your videos. The question is, you have to be empathetic to what they would want to hear and what is valuable to them. So what I've done is I've created 4 quadrants to try to be empathetic to my avatars. Okay. The first quadrant is fear. What are their fears as it relates to what your niche is or what your area of expertise is? What are their challenges? What are their aspirations? And probably the most important thing is, what are their inspirations, or what would give them inspiration? What kind of content would they consume in order to feel motivated, to feel a lot of positive energy, and to feel inspired to take the next step on their own journey for transformation? Okay, so my audience is generally an American business person who is doing business in China. So the broader audience could be really anyone who feels that they are affected by the uncertainty between what's going on between the US and China, which is almost everybody. So I have to kind of think, what would the broadest group of people that might be interested in this topic, what are their fears, what are their challenges, what are their aspirations, what are their inspirations? So I'm not going to go through every one of these, but for example, one of their fears could be the uncertainty and risk associated with US-China trade war. Or they may fear, if they're working with people in China or they're working with partners or employees, they're fearful of corrupt behavior because they mistrust the Chinese people that they're actually working with. That leads to a lot of the challenges. So how to manage risk and prepare for a new normal? Obviously, with a rising China and more assertive Chinese and changing attitudes of Chinese people, there's going to be a new normal. So how do you manage risk within that new normal, where we as Americans are no longer kind of the dominant power in the world? How do we communicate more productively with increasingly more assertive and nationalistic Chinese attitudes? This is a challenge that a lot of people have, whether it's just pundits in news cycles or social media, or just talking to your friends and colleagues. Aspirations may include things like, how do I develop real guanxi relationships? Or how can I be more understood by Chinese people when I'm communicating with them? And obviously, how do I get results when everything seems to be kind of a circular conversation? And then on the inspiration quadrant is, I think if I could convert animosity into friendship, that would be very inspirational. If I could eliminate endless circular conversations that I have with my Chinese partners and employees, that would be great. Or I can just create positive, synergistic, more trustworthy relationships, because ultimately there's a lot of mistrust between Americans and Chinese. So these are things that would be very inspiring, give a lot of momentum and motivation and positive energy to actually move forward with whatever engagement you have with Chinese people. Okay, so that is being empathetic to the people who may consume your content. The superpower finder really is about self-awareness. Okay, do I understand myself? Okay, it doesn't really matter how great your content is if you're not aware of if you're not self-aware. And what do I mean by that? If you have 0 followers, but you have a great message, self-awareness means that you need to start engaging with more people to build that coalition before you launch something that you want to charge money for. Okay. So this is all about looking internally. And the first quadrant is what makes me different than my competition in my niche. So competition could be anything. Okay. If you are helping people lose weight, competition could be a weight loss book, or videos that people can watch on YouTube, or a podcast, or an influencer, or whatever. So it's not somebody who's doing the exact same thing as you. It's just generally, where do people seek help when they're trying to solve the problems that you are able to solve? And how do you do it differently than anybody or anyone or any medium that might be considered competition? Okay, so for me, I help my students or clients gain new perspectives that seed winning behaviors in China. Okay, I help them cultivate healthy attitude and mindset adjustments that spawn a winning approach and a new modus operandi, and that just becomes a natural way of behaving, which makes everything easier. Okay, that's I think what makes me unique. That's how I differ from my competition. My unique approach that enables, so the next quadrant is what unique approach enables me to achieve better outcomes in my space. So I think my approach is I continuously, I wrap continuous ESSTM development. Okay, so what does that mean? I wrap continuous development of essential soft skills that matter. That's ESSTM, that's my acronym, around cultural awareness and insights to create a new reality. Okay. I focus on interpersonal dynamics that lead to sustainable winning outcomes versus strategy that continuously needs to be adjusted. So that's my unique approach. The third quadrant, which is the bottom left, is what gratification do I receive when I deploy my superpowers? So this is a superpower finder. What makes you different? What makes you successful? Well, I think I get the greatest satisfaction because when I'm deploying these essential soft skills that matter, I feel like I have foresight, which means I can kind of predict how people are going to behave, as opposed to, in my niche, experiencing a China leadership dilemma, which is an unexpected disappointment. So that's gratifying. I also feel it empowers me to orchestrate my own interactions with other people free from emotional biases. So instead of being in the moment and getting into a kind of very contentious conversation with someone, I almost feel that I am kind of looking at myself and I can actually orchestrate how the two parties interact, because I developed the essential soft skills where in these interactions, I'm completely free of emotional biases, which is one of the keys to being successful working across cultures. So that's where I get my gratification. And then the final quadrant is what stories best highlight my character in action. So you got to kind of think about yourself as a superhero because you're finding your superpowers, and kind of what are the stories that kind of highlight your own character in action. Okay, so I have two stories. One is a story where during my intercultural marriage, I was able to reverse an escalating argument instantly with 3 simple words. I said, "I'm so lucky." And I said that in the middle of a very contentious argument. And that completely transformed the nature of our discussions. So I'm not going to tell the story here. But again, you have to find the stories that really highlight your character, which is your superhero in action. And again, this section is about self-awareness. So when you combine your P1 value finder with your superpower finder, what you actually get is your optimal value proposition. Okay. The optimal value proposition isn't what would help your target audience or avatar the most. The optimal value proposition is how you can help your avatar the most. Because there's a co-relationship between you as the instructor, trainer, or coach and the student or the avatar that is seeking help and guidance from you in order to achieve a transformation. Okay, so you have to be authentically who you are, and you have to extract that, and you have to find the intersection between what your avatars value the most and what you are best positioned to deliver to them and why. Okay, so when I look at the superpower finder and you go through these exercises, it's really important to understand the stories that you are going to tell, because the stories that demonstrate and illustrate your superpowers in action are basically what's going to attract people you don't know into your community. And it's only by getting people into your community that you're able to actually help them achieve some kind of transformation. Okay? So once you have your story, it's basically the story, the lesson, and the takeaway. Okay, so this is when you're starting to create content. It can be content for a lead magnet, it can be content for a social media post, it can be any type of content that you start to create. Once you take one of your stories, you have to extract lessons, and then you have to create takeaways. So takeaways are what people can actually take away from either your course or your lesson or your workshop and actually apply towards their own transformation. And all of this basically can be applied to every aspect of the product ecosystem that you need to develop in order to create a successful online business. So initially, we'll be creating the free product or the P1 product. This is the lead magnet that everybody in your audience would immediately benefit from through the engagement of people that subscribe or opt into your free product. Then you start to engage with them, and then you can start to create the next level of your product, which is a low-cost product, and eventually work your way up to a prime offer. All right, so this again, I'm not going to go over this. This is the development plan. I would say it takes approximately 8 weeks to develop each product within your ecosystem. You eventually have to have a task manager where you're understanding all of the skills you need to be successful. Which ones do you want to learn that you don't have? Which ones do you need to master, because these are things that you're not going to outsource? And which ones are you going to outsource, which means hire someone or partner with someone or affiliate with someone to actually do. All right, so that's the end of this short video. Thank you very much.